The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
Well, we are a day late. Hopefully we're not $1 short. Welcome into a Thursday edition of Crossed Flags, this podcast. Episode number 12, as it turns out. There's a reason for that, and it has to do with this little wonderful bandage right here. I had to go to the hospital on Tuesday, and they told me I couldn't go anywhere on Wednesday. So there you go. So here we are on a Thursday, and we got some breaking news that we're going to get to. So that's actually now two things about Formula One. We're going to give you a slight tease about something coming up on the Saturday show. But first things first, let's talk a little bit about what's gone on and what's about to go on in NASCAR. Welcome into it. I'm Steve West. It's Matt Nicholson. Appreciate you joining us. And if you were a person who was watching the All-Star race last Sunday night, you may have seen this. If you weren't necessarily watching it, for one of the few times ever, literally every news and sports entity in the United States of America suddenly covered NASCAR. Yeah. It's like, wow, suddenly it's a sport again. But that was really only because there were fisticuffs after the end.
True.
You might have seen that.
True.
Basic rundown of it was Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was behind Kyle Busch, really on the first and second laps.
Lap one, turn one.
Yeah. And Kyle Busch left an opening. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. took it. Film, video, Fox Sports 1 shows Ricky Stenhouse Jr. did not touch Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch hits the wall. Mm-hmm. Kyle Busch gets mad. Mm-hmm. He retaliates. Mm-hmm. He runs all over and dumps Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Mm-hmm. And it was a dump. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
That was pure 100% retaliation.
Or in some terms of motorsports terms, that was called a straight duck hook.
Yep. So Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets out of the car, gets checked out of the infield care center, does a post-care center interview, says, I'll be waiting for Kyle Busch by his hauler when we get done. Because here's the thing about North Wilkesboro. It's an old-school track. There's no way for him to get out of the infield.
Nope. Nothing but a crossover gate on the backstretch.
So he's stuck there for 198 laps, stewing. Mm-hmm. Led to this. Mm-hmm. And in the aftermath, not only does Ricky Stenhouse Jr. get involved in it, a couple of crew members get involved in it on both sides, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s father, Ricky Sr., gets involved as well. The bottom line is that NASCAR handed out penalties this week. Ricky Stenhouse Sr. is suspended indefinitely from going to NASCAR races.
This is laughable. Laughable.
Yeah. One crew member is suspended for 8 races. A second crew member on both of these on Stenhouse's team, suspended for 4 races. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. doesn't get a suspension, but he does get a fine of $75,000. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we have a punch last year on pit road
at Kansas
between Ross Chastain and Noah Gragson?
Correct.
Did NASCAR issue a fine?
No.
Suspension?
No.
What the hell, NASCAR? Consistency. That's all we ask for. Consistency in this. You have said, boys have at it.
Yeah.
That's boys have at it. This is short track racing by definition. You've seen it.
True.
You've been involved.
Not experienced that, but I've experienced, leaning and bending some sheet metal.
Yeah, and you've seen this.
Oh, I've seen that quite a few times.
Yeah. As a PA announcer, when I was at the old Birmingham International Raceway, when I knew that there was the possibility of a fight might break out on pit road, I got on the PA system and actually diffused the situation by telling them both to get out onto the front stretch so we could all watch it. This happens. This happens, NASCAR. Now, I mean, if they got into a knockdown, drag out, just absolutely tearing the walls down brawl, sure, I could understand suspensions and a fine. One punch, and then everybody else trying to hold everybody back is really what that turned out to be. That's an overreaction.
that is a that is a massive overreaction. 1. 2, you suspend Ricky Stenhouse's dad for trying to break the fight up. Busch swings on him and he swings back. 1.
And Busch didn't get a suspension or a fine for that?
Busch, and you set your precedent. I guess that's probably going to be the word of the day, precedent. You set your precedent last year when Denny Hamlin hooks Chase Elliott hooks Denny Hamlin in the wall at Charlotte. You set your precedent then. Okay. Charlotte and Wilkesboro, 2 totally different racetracks.
Oh, very much so.
2 totally different tracks. But it's precedent. He hooked him. He turned him. But somebody within the sanctioning body of the National Association of Stock Car Auto Racing, better known as NASCAR, for the love of God, get Elton Sawyer away from a microphone and stop doing these interviews on Tuesday or our weekly talk with Elton Sawyer. Well, if you got 198 laps to think and you act on it, we're going to act. If you go back and you listen clearly, and Ricky Stenhouse clearly says, if I could have gotten out of the track, I would have been home already.
Yeah.
That's not his fault. Don't you? Elton, I know, has been there.
Sure.
He's been in the same situation. He's had the helmet on. He knows how actions can be. But the person that does that wrecks the car B that wrecks car A, let's call it that. Car B doesn't have nothing done to him, but car A, the one that gets a car torn up for absolutely nothing, yeah, I'm going to be mad too. But if I can't get out of that racetrack, yeah, I'm going to think on it for 198 laps.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it.
Because you got nothing better to do.
Yeah.
For 198 laps. You got nothing better to do.
But there is not one single competitor this week that I have seen within their social media channels and even some car owners. Let's go that far. We're going to promote it and exploit it and use it to sell tickets, but you're going to find somebody for it? That's the dumbest thing I've ever freaking seen in my life.
Now, here's the thing, and we'll say this flat out. Whether it's Fox, which will have this weekend's race, the Coca-Cola 600, or in a few weeks when it transfers over to NBC, yeah, they do get some input from NASCAR and NASCAR Productions, but by and large, whatever they do as far as promoting the races that they're about to show on Fox, Fox Sports 1, NBC, or USA, they're making their own promos. They're creating their own promos and airing them. But if I see this on social media from NASCAR without stating the fact that you find him, in other words, you create a promo out of this, and you state, come check it out because of all the drama that's gone on, you can't miss the next race, you're hypocrites. You're going to find him because you don't want that to happen, and then you're going to turn around and tell us all to watch because we don't know what's going to happen next? Nope. Hypocrite. Don't do it. And here's the thing. I know for a fact, and you're looking it up, that NASCAR already has. So guess what that makes them?
Hypocritical.
Thank you very much.
I know I've seen it on the main NASCAR Twitter channel at least 3 times since Sunday. At least. Okay.
Stop it, NASCAR. You find them for it. You're saying this is a no-no. You better stop it too.
If I'm that man right there in the gray shirt with the black hat on with the 47 on it, if I see it one more time on a NASCAR social media channel or even on television, I'm charging royalties and that's going to pay my fine. You use it, you promote it, you pay it.
Absolutely.
But if that doesn't get overturned, I will be absolutely shocked.
Yeah. That's NASCAR strong-arming in a situation that NASCAR doesn't need to be strong-arming.
In an exhibition race.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was a points race and there was a lot more serious stuff on the line, maybe I could see it. But this is an exhibition race on a short track in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I've seen way worse than that happen.
Oh, gosh, yeah. So
This is
cut it, NASCAR. Something else that we need to cut as we go to picture number 2 here.
sure.
Because Sunday is going to be a great day. If you are a racing fan, Sunday is well known as the greatest day in racing. And in looking at the schedule this weekend, the only series that we cover on a regular basis on our Saturday show is the NHRA that's off. Everybody else races this weekend. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them race on Sunday. As it turns out, Formula E has a doubleheader weekend in China. And here in the United States, the second race of that doubleheader weekend will air here in the United States at 2 a.m. If you're awake for that, more power to you.
Bless you.
Then we go to Monaco. That'll be an 8 a.m. Central Time, God's time, where we are. Go to the Indy 500. Now, keep in mind that this is older insignias, but I found this and it had all 3 of them on there, so I just went ahead and used it. And then, of course, we wrap up the evening with the Coca-Cola 600. Greatest day in racing because all 3 of these races are crown jewel races for their respective series, Formula One, IndyCar, and NASCAR. Greatest day in racing, no doubt about it. Of course, we talked about the sub-stories that are in there, not the least of which is Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson attempting to do the double, Indy 500, Coca-Cola 600, to do the one thing that Tony Stewart was the only driver so far able to do, finish all 1,100 laps. And he's in good equipment. We know this.
Very good.
He drives the Hendrick Motorsports number 5 Chevrolet. It's capable of winning at the drop of a hat. Arrow McLaren and Kyle Larson, they're going to start in the front 2 rows of the Indy 500, starting 5th overall, middle of row number 2. Mm-hmm. That's a good car. And every IndyCar driver who has watched him, whether they are current IndyCar drivers or retired IndyCar drivers, have all, to a person, said they're very impressed with Kyle Larson. So that's one sub-story to watch. But then there came out a sub-story about him flying in from Indianapolis to Charlotte.
To which I started losing my mind.
There's somebody else who's coming to this race. And if you watched when Formula One was in Miami,
mm-hmm. He was there too.
You know who I'm talking about. Number 45, former President Donald Trump. He knows that NASCAR people, by and large, are quite politically conservative. Whether you are or not doesn't matter. But he knows this, so he's going to go play to the base.
Sure.
He's going to Charlotte. He's going to go watch the Coca-Cola 600. He's got what, a 757?
That'd be a 757-200.
Thank you very much. Okay, I thought it was a 757, but I wanted to make sure. Donald Trump will be flying into the Charlotte area in a 757. Kyle Larson will not.
No.
Donald Trump will have to go into, what is that airport there?
Donald Trump will have to go into, and the reason I know this is because I've already done kind of dabbled with a few pilots that I know. He has no choice. No choice. He has to go into Charlotte Douglas.
Douglas, thank you. For some
Charlotte
reason I was
Douglas.
going McCarran, and I'm like, McCarran's Vegas. I know
McCarran's
that,
Vegas,
so I knew
yeah.
it wasn't McCarran.
He has to go to Charlotte Douglas.
Okay. Kyle Larson does not, because even though Kyle Larson will take a helicopter ride from Indianapolis Motor Speedway to the Indianapolis airport, there is an airport a heck of a lot closer, smaller, but a heck of a lot closer to Charlotte Motor Speedway than Charlotte Douglas is.
That would be Concord Regional.
So he'll be able to fly in his little private jet into there, which means all those people that were complaining about Kyle Larson might have a bit of a problem flying in because of Donald Trump. No, you're wrong.
You're wrong. You're dead wrong. You're dead wrong because, one, there is not a TFR. Pilots, you know what I'm talking about. There is not a TFR scheduled to be put in Concord. So guess what? That's clear airspace. You little YouTubers that started this little junk, shut up.
These are the same people.
Shut up.
These are the same people that looked at the very back page, and I've got the edition of the magazine, by the way. Looked at the latest edition of Car and Driver magazine, and on the inside of the back is a big advertisement that purports that Pontiac is back. And everybody's been running wild that General Motors is bringing Pontiac back. General Motors ain't bringing Pontiac back. Sorry, folks.
No.
It's not happening.
No, it's not happening.
Research some things before you go off.
Even if there was to be a TFR, even if it was, anybody that has a brain that knows has been to Charlotte Motor Speedway, known to the relative distance where Concord Regional is, that's maybe 3 miles. Maybe.
Plenty of room.
Police escort, you can get right down that road in a hurry.
Yeah, no worries there.
There's no worries. He'll be there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That Hendrick Motorsports helicopter will be sitting at Concord Regional waiting for when that jet lands, helicopter track, and they'll probably land it right in the ball field like they've landed all the other ones.
Sure they have.
Put him at the car.
They did it for Tony Stewart. They did it for Robbie Gordon.
They'll do it for John
Kyle
Andretti.
Larson. They did it for Kurt Busch.
Kurt Busch and John Andretti.
Yeah. So
they're going to get him there.
They'll get him there. Don't worry about it. And even if the whole thing gets delayed a little bit, because there is a pretty decent chance, from what we understand, of some rain on Sunday in Indianapolis, even if things get delayed, NASCAR has said that they'll work with Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, Hendrick Motorsports, and even the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in kind of helping things out. And if it looks like he's going to be able to get the whole race in, they'll delay the start of the Coca-Cola 600 within reason, to try to accommodate Kyle.
Because it's from Concord, Indianapolis to Concord, which I was able to, by how lucky I did this, I don't know. I found on a flight tracker, I found the actual flight leaving from Indianapolis going to Wilkesboro, and it was probably every bit of 45 minutes. He was in Wilkesboro on the ground, fire suit change, ready to go.
You want to talk about booking?
So I mean, they've got this planned out to a T.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, once they caught word, Donald Trump's going to come to Charlotte, plans immediately shifted. All right, if this happens here, what plan is for which action?
Absolutely. Contingency plan started to go into place.
He'll be at that racetrack regardless.
Oh, yeah. Both of them will. Don't worry about it.
Because this is by far the most legitimate shot to date of anybody doing the double that somebody could legitimately win both.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So they're going to make this work.
Yep.
Regardless.
Because this benefits IndyCar, this benefits NASCAR. They're going to do their level best to make it work. Well, let's turn our attention over to Formula One here. First things first, we got some breaking news just before we started this podcast here. And we've been talking about silly season going on for a little while. And, of course, it started right before the season began with Lewis Hamilton announcing he was going to be moving to Ferrari next year, which meant that Carlos Sainz was out of a ride. Carlos Sainz still hasn't signed for next year, but he's been getting a lot of interest because he's a good driver, he's got wins, and they'd like to have him because he's been at a team like Ferrari, and they could come in and, I don't know, tell you what's going on wrong with your car.
They could.
But this particular bit of interest kind of came out of left field.
Yeah, it kind of did. Carlos Sainz is apparently in deep negotiations with none other than Williams to sign on with them for 2025 and beyond.
Now, we already know, because we talked about this last week, Alex Albon has signed on an extension with Williams that goes through the 2027 season. So Alex is at Williams. And Alex Albon, Carlos Sainz pairing, not a bad pairing at all.
No,
Logan Sargent
not at all.
obviously be out, but Logan Sargent's pretty much kind of forced that situation because he's just not been performing. So that'd be a nice pull for Williams.
Solid pull. Very solid.
We'll keep an eye on it and let you know. Then we get into this situation here where these two men, and I find this kind of an interesting little coup as well. The man on the left in that picture is one Michael Andretti. Michael Andretti is, of course, the head man of the Andretti Autosport / now Andretti Global team. You know, the team that's trying to get into Formula One. The man on the right, you probably don't recognize, unless you're a big Formula One fan. The man on the right, his name is Pat Simons. Pat Simons is a longtime veteran of Formula One. Worked with a few teams. Since 2017, has worked in the halls of Formula One as their technical director. Tuesday of this week, he walked in and he told the head honchos at Formula One, bye. I'm quitting, effective immediately.
See ya.
Within hours, Michael Andretti announced, we've hired Pat Simons. Within hours. Now, Pat has to work out a non-compete clause. October 1st. Pat Simons can begin working for Andretti Global in their building in Silverstone, England, on their Formula One operation in October of this year. Why are we bringing this up? Because this just continues the dominoes that Michael Andretti has been picking up, setting down perfectly, and then knocking over in a row to force Formula One to understand how serious he is about getting this team.
For lack of a better term, he is checkmating every single move F1 is making.
Yep.
He's going point blank in for the kill, checkmate every single move.
Yep. He's got, I think we heard 75 to 80 people already employed at the building in Silverstone. Remember, they don't have a team. May not have a team until 2028. They have no team. They have not been approved yet. He's bought the building. He's manning the building. They're building their first Formula One car right now, building their first Formula One car. General Motors, through the Cadillac division, is currently working on the engine that it is going to take and the hybrid system and all the other stuff based upon what we already know about the new engine regulations. They're already working on the engine.
And if I read correctly, it's going to be a blueprint design based off of the hypercar engine that is in IMSA right now currently with the Cadillac brand on it. It's going to have a blueprint after that.
Which is no small potatoes for an engine. That's a stout motor.
Yep.
Stout motor.
Very stout.
So, yeah, you're right. Every single move that Formula One has made to basically try and eliminate Andretti Global as a viable operation, Michael is just absolutely mowing all the arguments down. Every single one of them.
It's almost every move he's going, sure about that?
Yep.
I got this. Well, I don't know. You sure about that? I got that.
Yeah.
You know.
If it was the equivalent of Matt and I sitting here playing war with a deck of cards, every time he laid down a 2, I've got a 3. Every time he lays down a 5, I've got a 6. Every time he lays down a king, I've got the ace. Michael Andretti is that guy who has the higher card every single time.
I always thought Roger Penske was the smartest businessman in motorsports. And I think we got a new P1 on this one.
Got a rival in Mr. Michael Andretti right there. So keep it up, Michael. I think it's fantastic, and I can't wait because as much as I have thought about getting a shirt from the Haas F1 team, I'm thinking I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait for the Michael Andretti outfit because I'm really impressed.
If we would have had time at Barber to get over to the back stretch where the shirts was, I probably would have picked up one at Barber a few
Might
weeks
have
ago.
done that, yeah. Because you never know. There could be one of the drivers that currently races for him in IndyCar. They might be headed over to Formula One. We don't know.
Maybe 2.
It's possible. He has said he wants to be an American-based team with a base here in America. And remember, we've talked about that in a previous episode of Cross Flags where they're building, some ridiculously large...
500 and something thousand square feet.
Yeah. So we'll just call it 500,000 square foot plus headquarters for Andretti Global just outside of Indianapolis that has room for the IndyCar team, the Formula E team, the IMSA team, and the Formula One team. He's basically doing everything. He wants an American-owned team with a base in America, and yes, the base in Europe, and an American-born driver. How many times have we said it? You want the United States to really get behind you, give them something to root for. Just because you own the team and just because an American owns the team, yeah, it's okay. But if you can root for an American driver, boom.
And Haas Automation has not done that.
No, they haven't even come close.
Not.
Well, I take that back. Pietro Fittipaldi.
remotely close.
That's as close as they've gotten. Pietro's only been a reserve driver. Okay? Keep an eye on this. The hiring of Pat Simons, nice coup on the part of Michael Andretti.
Very.
Nice coup on the part of Michael Andretti.
Very.
One more note here before we go, and as promised, we're going to get into this more on Saturday. But the 2025 NASCAR Hall of Fame class. 3 members, as always, from the current and from the legends, so to speak. And I know they got different words for it, but we'll just say from modern day and from legends. 2 from the modern day, 1 from legends. Then there's the Landmark Award winner. So we know of 4, and then they're going to have the broadcasting one, the Squire Hall Award.
Squire Hall Award, yep.
But that one will be announced later. So we know the 4 already. Here you see them. Carl Edwards, Ricky Rudd, off of the modern day. Ralph Moody, off of the legends. For the Landmark Award, basically a Lifetime Achievement Award, if you will, it's Dr. Dean Sicking. I'll go ahead and tell you about Dr. Dean Sicking. Dr. Dean Sicking was one of the main cogs that got the safer barrier up, running, proven, and effectively installed at all NASCAR oval tracks and a lot of the other tracks as well.
If I'm not mistaken, it was developed at the University of Nebraska.
Someplace that our producer Molly knows a little bit about.
Yep.
Go Big Red.
You can yell it out. Come on, bring
She
it.
said it.
Go Big Red.
So he's going to go in, and rightfully so, on his first year on the ballot. But I really don't have an argument with that. It's hard to argue that because when you look at it, the reason why the safer barrier came around was because of the death of Dale Earnhardt.
True.
Okay, that, the Hans device, and all the head and neck restraints and all that kind of stuff, all of the safety features that we now see within NASCAR really were spurred on because of the death of Dale Earnhardt. And Dean Sicking, he was integral to that. So despite the fact that I think that there are certainly very, very worthy other candidates for the Landmark Award, I can't argue Dr. Sicking. I can't argue Ralph Moody.
Nope.
I really can't. You can go up and look up Ralph Moody, go and look up the Holman Moody team and what they did, not just in NASCAR either. I mean, they had a wide-ranging effect on the Ford Motor Company's racing program as a whole. All you got to do is watch the movie Ford versus Ferrari. You find out a little bit about that.
Between them and Wood Brothers, they put Ford Motor Company on the map in NASCAR.
Absolutely. So no argument whatsoever about Ralph Moody. Carl Edwards and Ricky Rudd? We may have some argument there, and that's where we're going to start getting into detail come Saturday. So I hope you join us then. Of course, again, Saturday starts 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. Go on to CRN Live on YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe to it. Of course, if you haven't already subscribed to the Jocks TV page, please do that as well. We and they appreciate that very, very much. And again, come Saturday, we'll talk about these 3, and we'll give you the resume, and we'll debate the merits.
I've got a problem with this one. I've got a problem with it.
And there'll be so much more that we'll talk about. We'll get much more into the whole situation about Kyle Larson flying down because we found out a lot more of the contingency things that we kind of hinted to a little bit earlier on. And so much more. So I hope you join us then, and hope you join us next week. Plan is for us to do it on Wednesday. I don't know. I got a doctor's appointment next Tuesday. I'm not supposed to be admitted to the hospital, but I do have a doctor's appointment next Tuesday. So we'll find out. Either way, we will have an episode of Cross Flags at some point in time next week. Hope you join us then. Until then, join us Saturday and next week. We'll see you then.
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2-hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.